Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, speaking of people who do support me on Patreon, I'm going to do a very quick shout out to exactly those people. So a massive shout out to Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Billy Highvolt, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Yun Cat, Dank, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, Felix Hung, Fireball X, Godrockin, Jeranism, Kirsten Smith, Life is Short, Matt, Michael Page, Qatar Craig, Reinhardt, Rene, Rune. Oh, got to the bottom of the page. Hold on one second. There we go. Where did I get to? Sam Hine, Skeptic936, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com, Tina Baker, and Tom Herkins. Thank you very much indeed to all of you who supported me on Patreon. Now, we are joined by Righteous Force and 10th Man in G+. Very good to have you both.
Hello. Good to be here.
Hello, hello, hello. And we're also joined by... We've got at least one person. Yeah, we've got a Earth-Shaped Investigator. I'll just take you off... Oh, you're already off mute. Very good to have you also, Earth-Shaped Investigator.
Thank you. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. No, there's no housekeeping questions because we're not live yet, in case you were waiting for that.
Well, as I was saying, last week's shows ending with 946 were probably your very best in the sense of globe slaying, because you used their argument, Coriolis, which is their argument, because they say the Earth is spinning. And we're saying, well, if the Earth is rotating or spinning, then show us Earth-based Coriolis. And they're saying, yeah, we got it. It's called Coriolis. You say, all right, we'll demonstrate it. And every time they try to demonstrate it, they couldn't. Because when they said it's this, you say, well, if it's working with that, why isn't it working with an airplane? Well, it's working with a bullet and artillery. Yeah, but why isn't it working with a helicopter? And we just went through every nook and cranny, and the baltards went crazy to the point where in the same talk, they would contradict themselves by taking two positions. Zanuck did it, and I believe Emerald did it, if I'm not mistaken. And even Kosho at one point had to admit it. And so the whole point is they want it to work so bad, but then when you apply it to something else, because we don't see it, then they have to take the other position. And it was so obvious of a slaughter that the trolls went on every remark I ever made instantaneously, as if they had a reminder when 10th was going to put something up. And I never even put anything up for them. I just was stating things. And within a minute or two of me posting something, they're already trying to say something opposite. I don't think they slept this weekend.
Yeah, it's probably...
Hello.
Flatzoid. It's probably very painful for them, I imagine. Cognitively, being in cognitive dissonance isn't a pleasant thing to be in when someone points it out to you.
Yeah, that's what they were in, and that's what I was putting on my post, and they couldn't take it. But it was exactly that, because you have two positions on the same thing. And they were entirely different.
When it boils down to Coriolis on Earth is asserted to be a demonstration of the Earth rotating underneath to give you this apparent deviation of balls or bullets, but they have to, when describing this effect, then actually give you an explanation for how the effect doesn't actually take place. So they'll start explaining how, according to people like George Netanyahu, the Earth and atmosphere travel as one. And if the Earth and atmosphere travel as one, there is no Coriolis effect. So you're in an argument about whether or not Earth's rotating underneath things to give you this apparent deviation, and the globeheads are arguing for a circumstance that will not give them Coriolis, in an argument about Earth having Coriolis. The situation is absurd, but it's taken this long, reasonably well versed with Coriolis effect, obviously, for the reason of being in a flat Earth debate, and it's taken this long for me to recognise how the trick works. You know, the trick works by starting off asserting that we have an Earth-based Coriolis. That would be Earth rotating underneath an inertial reference frame, and in order to experience the effect, Coriolis effect, the apparent deviation, is to have an object leave the spinning reference frame of Earth that is claimed to be a ball spinning, and entering the atmosphere, the inertial reference frame, like a ball described by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Throwing the ball makes it leave the spinning reference frame, so the audience sees the ball curving because they're still on the on the non-inertial reference frame, and they witness the ball travelling through the inertial reference frame seeming to curve. Well, that seeming to curve is because the Earth rotated underneath the ball. But then you get into, if that was the case and the Earth rotated underneath the ball and the bullet that they claim, then it's also rotating underneath a helicopter, debunked by the fact that a helicopter can hover. It's not got the Earth rotating underneath. You don't have what they need for the Earth to display Coriolis effect, which is Earth rotating underneath helicopters and planes. So when you get to that part of the argument, the globehead in the debate will say Earth and atmosphere travel as one, which is a defiance of the Coriolis effect. It doesn't give rise to any Coriolis effect. So they're essentially then arguing for there being no Coriolis effect on Earth, which is precisely the claim they're trying to defend. Earth is spinning and has a Coriolis effect as a result of its spinning. In reality, we observe no Coriolis effect. We observe no deviation, apart from what they claim is a deviation in a very short hang time, only to be backed up by them claiming we shouldn't see the effect at all. Earth and atmosphere travel as one. Now, you can get into endless debates about how Earth can't possibly be travelling as one if it's a rotating sphere, but the main point is that if it was, that debunks the assertion that Earth has a Coriolis effect because it's spinning. Because they're saying, oh, you don't see the effect. That's the reason you don't see the Earth travelling underneath. Well, that's the reason we don't have Coriolis, as you're claiming. So that's the unpacking, as concisely as I can do after several nights of sleep and thinking about this quite a lot, of how the magic trick works. Number one, assert Earth is spinning. Number two, it's demonstrable, but because it's spinning, you see apparent deviation. When it's pointed out that we do not see any apparent deviation, the Earth is not spinning underneath helicopters and aeroplanes, they will then argue for a circumstance that does not give them Coriolis in an argument about how our Earth is demonstrating this effect. They'll say Earth and atmosphere travel as one. They just don't add the fact that that won't give them Coriolis. But that is what we observe. No deviation because the Earth is not spinning.
Precisely.
You don't even have to say this anymore, Nathan. You can just press play on every recording you've said. I think it's every Hangout.
Well, if you go back, which is what I did, and just listen to those shows again, they all come in with begging the question, meaning the Earth is rotating underneath, and they go to the equator. Well, they already in their mind have bought the lie of the heliocentric model, that we have an equator, we're in the shape of a sphere, and we're rotating. So they're starting from that point. Whereas what we're saying is, if that's true, then everything else that the Earth spins underneath, we'd be able to see this Coriolis effect, because then you'd have Earth-based Coriolis, not just on bullets, not just on artillery, but helicopters, airplanes, and everything else. And this is where
it would be a...
Well, go on.
Sorry, it would be a very crazy world if it did happen. I mean, with that Coriolis effect just walking around.
Well, if it did happen, then we wouldn't have this show and the Earth would be a ball. It's pretty simple. I wouldn't be on this show if I saw it.
Spinning ball Earth would necessitate there being a Coriolis effect, and there isn't one. That's the argument.
Yep, so no globe.
To have Coriolis, the Earth must be spinning. It's claimed it is. There is no demonstrable Coriolis deviation. That's the argument.
Every reference point I went to see how they explain Coriolis says what we say. And here's one right here. The effect of the Coriolis force is an apparent deflection of the path of an object that moves within a rotating coordinate system. The object does not actually deviate from its path, but it appears to do so because the motion of the coordinate system, meaning the Earth. And I skip down and he summarizes. The Coriolis deflection is therefore related to the motion of the object, the motion of the Earth, and the latitude. They're telling you the Earth is spinning underneath.
Yeah, keyword, apparent.
But this is apparent and actual is not going to make sense to them because they start off with an equator and a rotating Earth. And so they're locked in that brainwashing. Whereas when you say apparent deflection, you're on the Earth, you're moving, and you're looking at something, and it might be going straight, but to you it's curving because you're moving. And this is what Nathan's trying to drive in with the merry-go-round example, whether it's a ball you throw up or the drone. And this powered flight nonsense is ridiculous, as if powered flight has anything to do with the Earth spinning.
Yeah, well, they have to clutch at straws.
Yeah, but I mean, when you think about it, the powered flight would help them. North and south, it would be an ideal way for them to prove Coriolis. Powered flight, north and south, Earth moving west to east. Oops.
It's not there.
Oops. Because what was
Yeah,
he
I don't
saying?
get the powered flight argument, because if they say momentum would carry, let's say, the helicopter, but then that once you have powered flight, then yeah, you would demonstrate Coriolis, because then it would automatically put it out of the reference frame. If the helicopter is on the ground, then okay, you can say it's rotating with the same reference frame. But the moment it's powered flight, that's when you'd imagine Coriolis would come in, because it's separating out, because it is powered. So
that's my point.
They're in a bind over this.
Yeah, that's my point, because it was Kosho who said it's the latitudes, right? The longitudes or whatever. And so, okay, well, if I want to go to the next part of the Earth that's spinning slightly less, wouldn't I get there quicker with powered flight? And then go to the next one after that that's slightly spinning less, when I get there quicker with powered flight?
Yeah, that would be for north to south or south to north flights, that in a certain way, something underneath you, south or whatever from the North Pole, would be spinning faster. So yeah, it's all a mess. It's just we've really got them on this, I think.
But that's their argument, that you notice Coriolis more because above the equator, the spin is counterclockwise, and below the equator is clockwise. So they're saying that. So you say, oh, okay, well, let's take powered flight going north and see what happens. Oh, no, powered flight, that's cheating. Wait a minute. I'm going to leave 1,038 miles per hour spin at the equator, go to where LA is, which is 860 miles spin. I get there quicker with powered flight. I should be able to see the difference. In fact, I did in fact, I'll post it on Skype. I did a little thing from San Diego, California to San Francisco, California. It's, it's almost north-south exactly. And so I went to Flight Tracker. And I said, how long is the flight? And the flight was about an hour, 26 minutes. Well, in an hour, 26 minutes, how much does the Earth spin? Okay, that's number one, west to east. And then I went to see if the airplane was aiming at Utah or some other state east of California, so that by the time it got there, we can see Coriolis at work. And sure enough, Flight Tracker shows going straight up the coast. Dead straight aim. Well, if north and south is supposed to show Coriolis more, then why aren't you aiming at Utah with your plane and wait for San Francisco to come under you?
Yeah, the north to south and south to north, that's a really, really good point, because if they claim that a plane leaving at the equator would be traveling in the reference frame of the equator rotation, then when they go north, they should still carry that momentum. So, yeah.
But that
It's,
was
wow.
Kosho's.
Yeah, no backward flying pilot.
That was Kosho's broken argument that you only experience Coriolis when you hit the next slowing down of the Earth as you go north part. And Nathan says, well, how long does it take to get there?
Well, let me put it this way. I mean, when I
So
go
funny.
visit my mom and them in Cape Town, it's like a 15-hour drive. Flying is about 2 hours, and I don't see any difference. I mean, it's what, 1,400 Ks?
What's the direction?
South.
There you go. Oh, south. So straight south of you.
Yep, straight south. So obviously we should be spinning with the Earth west while we're going south, but you still see the planes going normally south. You don't see them deviating west while they're going south.
They're the ones. If you've read the articles I've read, the Globers are the ones saying Coriolis is more noticeable north, south, south, north, less east, west, west, east. Well, we know they've already committed that the Earth is spinning west to east. So if they're saying you're going to notice more Coriolis north, south, then let's just see how the planes fly north, south.
Yep, and they don't.
And they go straight path. This is why they trick you with the snipers and the snipers who say they use Coriolis, which is ridiculous because all it is what do you call it? Velocity. They take into account the velocity and the bullet and the inertia, meaning the bullet comes out of the chamber and it's going to lose energy. And so if the target's far away, they got to put it on an arc. They claim in their doublespeak, the arc is the Coriolis.
That's fine, you can use that against them. Okay, so what you're saying is the bullet deviates because it leaves the non-inertial spinning reference frame and the Earth rotates underneath the bullet, so it appears to be curving, even though it's actually travelling in a straight line. Likewise, a plane leaves the non-inertial spinning reference frame and we immediately see it deviating because the Earth spins underneath. Oh, we don't. Why is that? Oh, Earth and atmosphere travelling as one, so one reference frame then. That doesn't match up with your bullet, we've got a problem here. You're claiming Earth spinning underneath the bullet, but simultaneously claiming Earth isn't spinning underneath the plane. Well, you can't have it both ways. If this is a claim to be proof of Earth spinning, i.e. you see a deviation because Earth spins underneath, the Coriolis effect, then Earth spins underneath. And if you're travelling west, then Earth spinning underneath. Them saying, oh, well, it doesn't, it's only north and south. Well, for it to cause any deviation going north or south, it's because Earth's rotating underneath. So, yeah, you'd still have the same situation apply when you travel west or east. The only difference is you're fighting against the Earth's spin if you're travelling east, and you've got the Earth and continent with the place you're travelling to coming towards you if you're travelling west. Well, that's just the debunking of the assertion, not something you can hand wave and go, oh, it only applies to north. Oh, really? Well, let's see you demonstrate that on a roundabout. Let's see if you going north stops that effect from occurring.
Yeah, they die. They double speak everywhere. No matter what they say, they die because it doesn't spin. And that's why last week's shows were so fantastic. They look so stupid arguing against it. And then they said that the second reference frame is in space.
That was
in their
Zenik.
model, the second reference frame is outside the Earth's atmosphere. So how in the world do you even have Coriolis, the way they say, if you can't even experience it till you go out into outer space where there's no wind?
That assumes you can have outer space, which isn't the case anyway. But in any
Exactly.
event, that's just his version of getting there to be one reference frame to match up with the observable reality. So the observable reality is no deviation. And when he says, oh, well, the second reference frame space, and the first is Earth and atmosphere all travelling as one, it's like, well, that's one reference frame. And if you leave the Earth in a plane, or leave a gun in a bullet, or leave the hand of a football player, if you're in Neil deGrasse Tyson's example of how we do have Coriolis, the claim that the globe's actually making, they say we do have Coriolis. The fundies who come and debate here are arguing for there being no Coriolis, single reference frame, no deviation. Why? Why would they fly in the face of the actual rhetoric the globe is actually punting, that you do have Coriolis on a spinning Earth? Well, it's because we don't observe that. So they then switch to arguing that we have a single reference frame, something that won't give you Coriolis. So that's what I will now point out. It's like, well, which side of this argument are we having today, Globey? Are you going to be arguing that we do see apparent deviation because Earth rotates underneath? Or are you going to be accounting for the fact that we do not observe that in things with a very long hang time, like gliders and planes and drones and helicopters? You know, which one are you going to be fighting for? Us not having Coriolis, one reference frame, Earth and atmosphere travelling together, no Coriolis. Is that what you are going to argue today, Fundy? Oh, you are going to argue like the rhetoric says you should argue, that you do have Coriolis. Oh, 1.5 hour flight time from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA. Oh, you don't have that? Oh, well, that's because you're not having the necessary ingredients fulfilled. You need Earth spinning underneath now, don't you? What's that? It does for a bullet? What, very, very short time? What about that plane that's supposed to be leaving the reference frame that you say is spinning, same as the bullet? Oh, it doesn't have an hour and a half time because Earth's spinning underneath as it would have to. Yeah, that's because it's not spinning underneath. It's not spinning, and we see absolutely no observable effects of Coriolis beyond the assertions of things that are staying in the air for about a second and a half.
It's beautiful. It's so good. Oh, loved it. I'm gonna go listen to that show again. Is that good?
What was the number of that one? 496?
No, 946.
Don't worry, it'll probably come up again today.
946, 945, 944. The whole
that was
dang week, man.
You missed. It was a bit of an in-joke. That was a nod to righteous.
It was a great week, yeah.
Oh, that was not the righteous. All right.
Yeah, he pointed out that I had a bit of numeric dyslexia in one of the show numbers. So that's been corrected, but yeah.
Very good. Very good. I put up some still shots of Neil deGrasse with his field goal comment, and from the YouTube video he was on with that gal as he was, you ought to see his facial expressions on Master B. And it shows the football just before it hits the goalpost, hitting the goalpost, and then skidding to the right of the goalpost. And then they're all celebrating that Coriolis was proven by a football going 50 yards. And everyone on the show last week says, oh, you need to be in outer space to even see it.
The 10th, we're in the field again today.
Actually, sun hasn't come up yet. We had a thunderstorm last night. I had to get up early. Lots of rain came, lightning, thunder. I closed up car windows and everything because we've been going for over 100-degree temperature. So the good thing is we had a downpour, so I ain't going to be watering today. We lose Flatzoid. There you are.
Oh, sorry. I lost connection or something.
Yeah, did you hear my answer?
Only till downpour.
Yeah. So I think I only had a few hours sleep, so I'll need a nap, but I won't have to water today.
Spurs is coming back with that pressure tour.
Oh, no.
Well, as long as he doesn't come back to this show, who cares? What a joke.
He was pumping real hard on Discord.
Yeah, we'll see who goes to his channel. Probably Globetards who are licking their wounds over Coriolis might have to go to Spurs just to get something new.
No, his cheerleader Double D will be with him.
Well, that's for sure. But such nonsense.
Yep. It's such a shame because Spurs is actually a nice guy.
No, I don't think
Well,
so.
until he did this rubbish, but yeah. Until he did this rubbish, like I said, I had respect for him, but
Oh, look, have you had dinner with him? Have you sat down with him? Do you know him, or do you just know him online?
I have. I've sat down. I've had a meal with him. I know him.
You're the only one. And you told him if he keeps it up, he's not welcome back. And he kept it up.
No, all are welcome.
He hasn't been back
Yeah.
since. Spurs is, like everybody, always going to be welcome. But, you know, there's a line in the sand that I had to draw with him after 6.5 weeks of constant non-stop bullshit assertions about gas pressure not being real. You know, and at the point that it was smashed beyond any comprehension by every single panel member, you're like, when you jerked back to the beginning of that point, it's like, no, this is the end of this.
yeah, it at least had some type of validity. But I mean, it's just nonsense.
We
Even my
welcome.
flippin' 4-year-old daughter knows it.
When he first came up with it, it was like, okay, let's hear it. But after it got debunked, he kept going and going and going. It got old. Welcome. Oh, it's 6 o'clock. My
Now.
time. Welcome.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on social media. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined in G+ by 10th Man, Flatzoid and Righteous Force. Very good to have you all.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Goeiemorgen. Hoe gaan dit?
Oh, hello.
You know, it's pretty awkward to say good morning like 2-3 times to you.
That's just the way it goes. We're also joined by a few people in Discord as well, so very warm welcome to all of you as well.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello. Any
Hello,
signs
hello.
of Earth curvature? Anybody at all over the weekend, perhaps? No Earth curvature?
Not even over the weekend.
Nothing specific.
No Earth curve?
They said a straight line was curved.
Fair enough. Any scientific evidence of gravity on your travels?
No gravity. No non-force force.
Still don't know what it is.
Scientific validation given to space-time bending. Wow, I'm surprised. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No apparent distance.
Nope. No way to measure that light in the sky.
That's unfortunate. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container for all of the fundamentalist religious zealots who believe outer space is real and it is possible to have a vacuum next to the gas we breathe? Any evidence of that?
No way.
One word. No.
Any evidence of a Hey Arwen, how you doing?
Owen.
Hello.
Hello. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
Nope. Every time you say that, it makes me think of marshmallows over fire.
It's that molten iron core bit.
Mm-hmm. Yummy.
Yummy molten iron marshmallow at the centre of a fiery core. Yum, yum, yum. Any evidence of the presupposition itself? Earth radius, the R value.
There are be none here.
No.
That's just
Any
mathematical.
evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Ta-da!
Of Earth-based? Nope.
No,
Oh,
there's
spin-
just a lot of Coriolis confusion.
Coriolis confusion. I like the ring of
Yeah.
it.
Well, that seems what seems to be left of that Earth spin now. Because everybody, even in my chat today, they kept on harping on about it. I can't believe it's just the same stuff over and over again. Never ends.
Yeah, we were discussing
So we
it on
can
the
diagnose
pre-show.
Globus with Coriolis confusion.
There was a heated debate in Discord too last Friday.
They can debate it all they want, but there's no Earth-based Coriolis.
Yeah, but it's not much of a debate.
Intentionally leaving a couple of long pauses just in case anybody wants to bring up the subject. I left it till last. No? No dying remnants of fundies that want to argue that we don't have Coriolis and Earth and atmosphere travel as one? No? Anybody? Any takers?
They took a beating last week, Nathan. They're licking their wounds. They got tired. They're asking their dog to lick their wounds now. A day or two.
In my chat, I still got claimed that there was a manual, the sniper's manual,
Oh, that's nice.
that it's still in there. Although I haven't heard anyone actually testifying to doing it.
Okay, let's concisely wrap that up. So, according to the manual, if it's claimed to be true, then the manual is suggesting that you must account for the fact that when the bullet leaves your gun, the Earth will rotate underneath. If the Earth rotates underneath a bullet from a sniper's rifle, then it will also rotate underneath a helicopter, a drone, and an aeroplane. With a much longer hang time, this would demonstrate things like a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA taking 1.5 hours rather than the actual 4.5 hours. Because Earth's rotating underneath, right? To give you this deflection that this sniper's accounting for with this very, very short hang time used to claim that Earth is spinning. Well, no. That hang time would be exacerbated by an aeroplane's longer period in the inertial reference frame that bullet is also travelling to, claimed to be deviating as you observe it. But the observed deviation claimed to be in effect with that bullet would be necessitated by Earth spinning underneath the plane, the helicopter, the ball that Neil deGrasse Tyson also uses this example. Ball leaves football player's hand. Earth rotates underneath, causing the goals to move position. Even though the ball is actually travelling straight, it seems to curve. Coriolis deviation, the Coriolis force, the not actual force of it deviating, because Earth's spinning underneath. Well, if Earth's spinning underneath, Earth better be spinning underneath them planes also. And fighting that you have Earth and atmosphere travelling as one is a defiance of the claim Earth has a Coriolis effect. So, fundies, looks like you're pretty buggered 6 ways from Sunday in this regard. Either you concede that you'd have a 1.5 hour flight time from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA because Earth's rotating underneath, or you concede reality You can have helicopters hovering and displaying absolutely no deviation. Plane flights aren't taking 1.5 hours as you assert Earth is rotating underneath. The alternative being saying, oh no, Earth and atmosphere travel as one. No Coriolis effect as claimed by globe heads in their official rhetoric. That's the end of housekeeping, unless we've got anything to add from Discord.
I wonder why do snipers take wind into account? Is that maybe what's deflecting the bullet?
Yeah. Well, that's what's supposed to be causing the Coriolis back in the first place. It's the different position of the air layer not turning with the Earth that would cause that supposed deflection in the first place. So if the Earth, if the atmosphere is moving lockstep with the Earth, then what is there to cause the Coriolis? Nothing.
So it's a non-solid solid gas. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, but
that's what they're trying to say when they defy having a Coriolis effect. The argument that Earth and atmosphere travel as one is to defy that we see any deviation. Globe Earth and its rhetoric claims Earth spins, therefore we see deviation, because when you leave a spinning reference frame, the item will appear to curve away from you because you rotate underneath. So Earth's got to be rotating underneath for there to be a Coriolis, and the fundies come here and say it's travelling as one. Oh right, so no Coriolis then, Fundy. That's completely pissing in the face of your rhetoric, because Neil deGrasse Tyson's making it plain. The Earth's rotating underneath footballs. So why are you now claiming they're travelling as one, which it can't possibly do?
Right. And the asymmetry in the air pressure surrounding it, the friction of the item, is what would be the cause of that deflection in the first place. Without that, it's just going to go straight.
Right. To put it another way.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate. To put it another way, Arwin. Without the Earth spinning, which is what they need and profess in their religion, there's no Coriolis effect. Answer from them. Let's explain why there's no Coriolis effect while we're arguing about Coriolis effect. That's their answer to it. Oh, well, we don't see a deviation.
They're still arguing about this nonsense. Kosho's still going at it like he's still right, like we're still wrong, like he doesn't understand this.
It's Coriolis.
He's over here getting destroyed on Discord. Him, Scott Veach, destroyed them both yesterday on this argument because they don't understand. This is an illusion. It's apparent. And they're like, what? And Scott Veach was like, I don't understand your problem with the word parent. Like, do you not know what a parent means? Like, do you think a parent means real? Do you think illusion means real?
A parent
when Kosho's own citations calls this Coriolis an illusion.
Right.
Produced
a parent
by a rotating reference frame.
To actually.
Exactly.
Not actual.
Oh my god, it's ridiculous.
Apparent.
And the other day, shout out to Chris. Chris Berry. Go ahead.
You know, and you're just exciting. We're just excited by what you're saying, Chocolate. That's why we're sort of nodding along and cutting your mic. I'm sorry. Hopefully Arwin will appreciate my sentiment as well and just let you get it out.
I'm also sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Slightly less.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
That's what I wanted.
Then you're gonna get the full interruption.
The full interruption.
No, I was done.
No, I mean, I'm just reiterating like how this argument, like I was gonna say, shout out to Chris Berry because he went on Sean G's hangout the other day and he destroyed him on this point also because apparently they don't understand how this works. And he even showed them the video with the drone, and it's almost like it felt like he was teaching them how Coriolis is actually supposed to work. Toady actually seemed like he learned at that point when Chris showed him that. He was like, oh, okay, I understand what you're trying to see. And I'm like, what the hell? You guys are arguing this shit and you don't even know what's going on here? What?
Wow. He has another opinion about reality, so...
I don't know, and they don't see that we're supposed to see that on
You're too
Earth,
kind, Darwin.
and we don't.
You're too kind. What you mean by that is they're fundamentalist religious zealots and their religion is in contravention of reality. That's a big problem for them.
Right. Their belief allows them to dispense logic at their convenience.
Precisely. Yes, you can dispense with logic if you've got a fundamentalist religious belief that Earth is spinning underneath to give you Coriolis effect, and then simultaneously tell us how it's not going to be possible because Earth and atmosphere travelling as one, not giving you a Coriolis effect. That's got to be cognitively painful. Shout out to Earth is seriously flat. Become a globe zombie slayer. Teach flat Earth. And a little angel and a devil. Very nice. Thank you very much for the super chat. Earth is seriously flat.
That's what I was saying earlier in the pre-show, is because they're begging the question and already assuming they're on the sphere with an equator, and this logic hits them. This cognitive dissonance hits. So when Chocolate explains, oh, that's what you guys mean. Well, they can never get that from where they start off because they have an equator and it's spinning. So this is the brainwashing.
Yeah, they're forced to run from one corner to the other.
I mean, why is it so easy for me to say, if you can show me the Earth spinning and Earth-based Coriolis, I'll give up flat Earth? Why is that so easy for me to say? And why can't they say the opposite?
Why is it that when I'm sitting here on Earth and I look up and I see an aircraft and it's flying in whatever direction it's flying in, why don't I see that deviating somehow or another? Aren't I supposed to be rotating underneath that aircraft?
Yes, you're supposed to be if the Earth was a spinning sphere, but unfortunately there is no apparent deviation. So it's akin to...
okay. That explains it.
If you've got a roundabout and it's not spinning, it's just a stationary roundabout, and you launch a drone off it, you push the up stick, the roundabout's stationary, the drone will just go up and hover above the point on the roundabout that is stationary and not spinning, and it will just stay there, hovering, not moving, not deviating, not demonstrating Coriolis effect, if the roundabout is not spinning. Now you take the same roundabout and you spin it. You do the same thing. You hold your drone and you just push the up stick to make it hover. Now it hovers directly above the point that it left your hand, but you continue to rotate underneath, demonstrating an apparent deviation. That apparent deviation is where it looks like the drone's flying towards you and flying away from you. Now the drone's not actually moving, it's just hovering in its position in the air, the inertial reference frame. And you, on the non-inertial spinning reference frame, are rotating underneath, making it look like it's flying towards you, when in fact it's stationary. Now that looking like it's flying to you is the apparent deviation, Coriolis force. It's not actually flying, that's why it's apparent. Not really flying towards you, you're rotating underneath. Now if you take that example to a spinning ball Earth, and you have a helicopter, if the Earth isn't spinning, then the helicopter can take off and hover above the ground that it took off from, because it's not spinning. Or, if the Earth was spinning, the helicopter would take off and the ground would rotate underneath, and all you'd need to do is hover and the continents would come to you. But obviously we don't observe that effect, which is why we have fundamentalist globe-tard religious zealots coming in arguing for us not having Coriolis, in defiance of all gas law, in defiance of multiple surface winds in all directions. In defiance of that, they claim Earth and atmosphere, which is still spinning, travels as one, giving you one reference frame and no Coriolis. They'll fight to the nth degree that we don't have Coriolis in this debate. Some of them because they're senile, not mentioning any names, George Netanyahu. There we go. Damn, I mentioned his name. But, you know, senility aside, you can't have things travelling along with rotating reference frames, giving you a zero Coriolis deviation. Yeah? Shout out to Kosho. How fast is it spinning underneath the helicopter? Zero. Oh, so not spinning underneath, akin to the roundabout that's not spinning then. Zero deviation. That's what they argue for. That's the fundamentalist religious disposition that they have to deal with daily, and that's probably why depression is rife amongst their kind.
Their kind, I love
it. Or among their ranks.
Well,
their religious ranks.
We've all played sports, soccer, American football. when you want to pass the ball, whether you throw it in American football or kick it in soccer, you lead the player. So the player's running side to side, but so you kick it in advance of him, and by the time the ball gets there, he gets there. Yes, that's what should be happening, but it doesn't.
Yeah, if it's spinning, it's spinning. And if it's spinning, you'd see a deviation. We don't. Helicopters can hover. Drones can hover. Now, if you want to claim that Earth and atmosphere travel is one, not giving you Coriolis, then just demonstrate a drone taking off from a roundabout and it following along with the rotating platform beneath it. You just show us that. It just continuing to stay above the ground it left, even though it's actually rotating beneath it. It's going to carry on along and not give you Coriolis effect. I don't know who's making all that background noise, but if you can stay on mute when you're not talking. So, yeah. You need it to actually rotate underneath that helicopter to be rotating underneath the helicopter and give you Coriolis effect. So arguing for why it's not deviating is to argue that you don't have Coriolis, but that's what we're faced with, and I'm going to take great pleasure in pointing that out every single time this subject comes up.
You also pointed out the two reasons why the atmosphere cannot be one lockstep with the Earth. Remember, with gas unbonding was one, and then we have north, south, east winds as well as west.
I have another little point that could that may be interesting. I was just figuring out. Okay, so if a gyroscope it stays in place because of the gyroscopic effect, right? Earlier we thought, okay, well, if the Earth spins, then it's supposed to change its orientation. Well, it doesn't. So, yeah. But at the same time, even the motion should cause it to kind of like be pushing slightly in one direction. Would you say, if the Earth was spinning?
Yeah, that's
because it wants to stay in its geometrical place.
Their 15-degree deviation claimed on an optical or fiber optic or ring laser gyro, that is the claimed deviation of the Earth rotating underneath. That's precisely what those things are claimed to be doing. They're demonstrations of Coriolis effect. Same goes for the Foucault pendulum. It's swinging back and forth in a straight line. It's knocking down the dominoes because the Earth's rotating underneath, according to them. Now, if it's rotating underneath pendulums and rotating under gyros and bullets and balls and helicopter, oh dear. The things with the longest hang time, the things that would demonstrate Coriolis deviation the most, seem to be the one thing that don't. And the parlour tricks are the only things that claim to demonstrate it, while suspended on the reference frame, I might add. Nevertheless, they're claiming the Earth rotates underneath these demonstrations. Gyro is also Foucault. It was him that used it originally. He's the one claiming that a manual gyro, as opposed to ring laser or optical, is showing a deviation because the Earth rotates underneath. Right, well, yeah, that's a shame until people put things into flight and then demonstrated quite clearly that it's not.
Foucault was a total wizard. Like, that machination is just so blatant. It's Cavendish level, in my opinion. Maybe worse.
Gyros have other purposes. Being a fisherman and having a boat, there were boats, bigger boats, yachts, that had the seakeeper gyro. And it was in the rear, in the aft of the boat. And before they went out, it would start spinning while the boat was still, or as still as it was in the dock. Then when it was at sea, when the waves were trying to rock it, the gyro would make it stationary. So how'd they get around that?
Well, I think that draws a close to the housekeeping.
Yay.
No Baltards. We wiped them out last week, Nathan. No one on Discord.
These things are circular or cyclical, whichever.
Pun intended, circular.
Well, what I mean by that is, last month's argument was specifically gravity. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
The month before it would be gas pressure.
So we had 7 weeks of that.
Right on. My point is that, the demolition that is the assertion that gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force, the bending of space-time. For a few weeks, that'll be forgotten about. And like you phrase it, they're licking their wounds in regards to Coriolis, but they're all still talking about it on Discord and other places, after the demolition. Well, that will eventually peter out, and the old argument in the cognitive dissonance that is a fundy globehead who still holds true to his religion of a spinning ball Earth will just have the same dissonance resurface in a week or two for a subject that we covered a month or two. So distance the sun, George Nettingen started to assert that he's got a measurement. Well, that'll probably be the next one. No worries. We'll go through that again. We can do it all day. But the fact is, the fundies remain fundies. So the conversations continue with repetition from them. That's it. We'll keep demolishing it. The arguments haven't changed. I don't know if you noticed over the weekend, Ranty had held a show to address the claimed to be housekeeping questions of the Globeheads. And without even seeing them live, we debunked them on one show. After each question, it didn't even take any thought time. It was absolutely pathetic. How long have we had housekeeping questions? None of which have been addressed. So, they'll continue to be that way because they'll continue to hold the same position in contradiction to a similar position they also hold most of the time. And they'll come in and assert their double speak and we'll unpack it again. It will continue to happen until the religion is no longer the prevalent religion. That's the only way I can see this show dying. Well, we've got fundamentalist religious zealots who assert the earth is a sphere, demonstrably not the case. And they still hold that religion. So the fact that the normies are told that that's the case, most of them couldn't give a toss. So, if the paradigm changed, it'd just be like in 1984 when suddenly you're at war with Oceania and everyone goes, really? All right. That'll be the normies' reaction. The fundamentalist religious zealots, on the other hand, will, they already are sinking into deep depression anyway. So, oh, hey, Sleeping Warrior. Didn't see you come in there.
Hey.
Hey.
Just to let you know, Nathan, John is now set up with Voice Meter Banana and it all works.
Oh, wow, you did that. Did you do that?
Yeah. Look forward to him getting lost in it numerous times, so just be ready.
Thank God. I'm so glad you did it because I don't really understand it. You seem to. You pressing the buttons. I got it to work and left it. You press all the buttons all the time, so I imagine you've got a better understanding than me.
Oh, Riley, can you help me out too?
Knew it. Just knew it. That's one of the reasons I've not learned it.
I've been wanting that for almost a year, so...
Sure, I can sort it out, but... Nathan, you're being very, what's the word you're being? Very, no, not coy. You're being very, I can't think what the word is, but I know that you know more than what you're letting on.
What, about voice meter?
In the context of Voice Meter Banana.
The bit I understand about voice meter is the bit that I learned in college. I understand how an audio desk works. Ins and outs, I can comprehend all of that. However, that's not how a voice meter works. It's telling you how to look at various different programs and plugins, and I don't understand any of that. I've got not the clue. So I can do what someone on a video tells me precisely to do. Press this button, set it to this setting. That I can do. In terms of where it's going, so the bit I can do is understanding how Discord, Skype and G+ all going on in and out on different lines. How I can flick the lines so that various people can hear various different things. That I can wrap my head around because I know how an audio desk works, because I learned how to do it with analog audio desks in studios. So that I can wrap my head around. The software part of it, I haven't got a clue.
Well, it's obvious. It's in the title. Voice Meter Banana. There's a learning curve.
Yeah. I'm glad John's got his head around it. I thought that would be the case because he watched the video and then after understanding what the video was saying, he then went forth to do it. On the other side, just while we're talking shop, I wouldn't have brought this up if we hadn't been on the subject, but my PC temps are absolutely fantastic. My PC is silent, it's running the show live, and hasn't peaked above about 80, so I'm elated with all my little upgrades that I've done. Shout out to everyone on Patreon for putting me in a position where I can actually do minor modifications and upgrades to the equipment to keep everything on the show running smoothly. So that's precisely what I've done, and now I'm not stressed with the PC at 99 degrees as it was on the last 10 shows. Happy days. Anyway, enough shop talk. Subscribe to Quantum Eraser. He's getting better and better every day as YouTubers go. His content will improve. His output will increase. Definitely worth subscribing if you haven't done already. Also, subscribe to me. I'm like so close to 15,000 subscribers and have been for about, not a year, but, best part of a year.
We were also working out what microphone is the best setup for him. He's got headphones with a built-in microphone, which are, they're okay, but he doesn't like wearing them. So I said, well, you need to either get a lav mic or a desktop mic. I said, these are the best two that I'm aware of. One's 15 quid or $15. The other one's $30. I said, basically, it's which one do you want? I said, they're both cheap. They both sound good. Go for the one that suits you better in your setup. And then when you have too many decisions to make and you have to work out which is the better one for you based on the parameters of your own setup, it's really hard working out which is the best one. I said, John, it's $15. Just buy the cheap one. If it doesn't work properly, buy the other one. Send it back. Amazon are pretty good with returns. So he's sorted out a microphone now.
Okay, and anyone who's worked in sales will relate to what I now say. The key is to not give choice. Perception of choice is fine. What you do to make someone do something is you give them no choice.
Yeah, but I don't want to be responsible if it didn't work, so I'd let him make the choice.
Take ownership. Just tell him, buy that. That's what I would have done. Buy this one.
Well,
there we go.
Where are we in the debate? Anything happening?
We're at the stage where Coriolis has just been obliterated in the same way you so fondly take gravity apart with such gusto. And at the end of a thorough spanking, there's like the ripples go out into the other Discord servers with the moaning and saying, we are still right, our religion's still correct. We're at that stage where, don't know what the next one will be. Will it be gas pressure? Will it be the molten iron core? But another one of the housekeeping questions will be argued at next. We're just in that interim nice stage where everything's cool and calm and collected.
I think they're going to be on Coriolis a little bit longer.
I don't know. You might be surprised.
I have not seen this much battering in such a short time, and the trolls hitting every text that goes out the way they are. They're hurt, they're bleeding, and they've got to somehow cure this cognitive dissonance. So I think it's going to go a little bit longer, just like Chocolates over the weekend saw that they were going, because they're showing up to shows with legs and limbs missing, and they're still saying it spins.
It's really not our problem, though, eh?
Nope, not our problem.
Cool. I don't know if you're right. If someone comes with Coriolis argument again after whatever show it was, 9, 4, 6, I believe. Fundy after Fundy after Fundy coming with the same assertions about Coriolis and having the same demolition over and over and over and over again.
Well, I'll tell you why I think I'm right. It's what I tell every baller that's a troll. If you show me Earth-based Coriolis, I'll be a baller. So next time someone comes on trying to prove the globe, I'll say, hey, show me Earth-based Coriolis. I'll be a baller. And I'll start it again. And they'll get battered again. I like taking their own argument and stuffing it down their throat until they realize they've been lied to. This is my fellow man who's been lied to, and they're in just deep cognitive dissonance that it takes a good beating in the woodshed to wake them up.
The only problem with that is that the liars or the system or whatever you want to attribute the deception to is psychopathic by nature. It's inherent, and all people tend to do when you tell them about the behaviour of a psychopathic entity or individual is defend the psychopath. So that's precisely what's happening. So you might be on a fool's errand. I tend to appeal to the audience more than the fundy.
No, that's my point, Nathan, because I don't have hope for the trolls. I don't even think they're going to change. Maybe some will, but who's to say? The point is for the audience. And when they come with their own claim and they get beat up like last week, the audience, we turn everyone towards flat earth. We turn everyone against this whatever the powers are trying to keep the lie going. So I'm not doing it for them. I'm using them. I could tell you now, I had an incident last week where I was invited to a party, and I told my wife, I go, look, I'm not going to bring it up. I don't want to bring it up because I know what's going to happen. It's not even my party. It's not even my house. So I was going to be respectful in that way. Well, sure enough, get there, and first thing I see on the TV is the globe spinning, and there's like a screensaver. And I'm saying, oh, man, I don't need to see this. And then someone talks about the moon landings. I said, that's it. I'm not holding back. It was carnage. I just said, look, here's the claim. Where's the support? And I just stuck on Coriolis. I didn't
realize I got totally kicked out of the Hangout then. So I'm midway through a conversation then, a line.
You know, I don't think so. Unless you'd started and you'd already been kicked and didn't realise.
Yeah, I'd started, been kicked and not even realised. It said that the connection had lost, and I was like, the connection was lost? What's it talking about? Let me just give you an update of what the current position is for gravity on the baller's side.
Hold on, one
They're
second.
all getting the message. They're all getting the message.
Hold on. Can you just pop yourself on mute, 10th man? You're causing all sorts of audio chaos.
So they're all getting the message now that gravity is not a force. But what they're all doing is scratching around like rats on a deck of a ship that's sinking, trying to find out what's the counter for it. And the best counter that I've heard them coming back with is obviously, the atmosphere gravity is the container for what's holding what's stopping the gas pressure from escaping into space. Well, gravity is the container, and obviously that's originated from the dick Earth. So now what I'm getting told is that there's a difference between Newton's law of gravitation and the more general phrase of gravity. And I'm like, oh yeah, what's the difference? And then they give some convoluted explanation for why they're not the same. And I say, okay. I said, so Newton's law of gravitation states what? And then they Google it, and then they find out that it's the center of mass of one object is inversely proportionate to the center of mass of another object, governed by its distance and its size, or words to that effect. They'll come back with a variation of that. So, oh, really? Okay. So, what's the cause in this? What's happening? I say, well, basically, they regurgitate mass attracting mass, but they don't say mass attracting mass. They regurgitate it in a slightly different worded way, but it's essentially mass attracting mass. So basically, what they're trying to distinguish, Newton's law of gravitation from the more generic word of gravity. The problem is it still relies on mass attracting mass. So it's still the same arguments Einstein said it's not. But the thing is to remember as well is when they say Newton's law of gravitation is no different to Riley's law of relative density or Arwin's law of relative density disequilibrium. It's just a name that's given to something that somebody spotted, right? It doesn't mean it's a law of nature. So don't be fooled by them saying that it's Newton's law of gravitation. That doesn't mean anything. It's not a law of nature. It's just the way that Newton describes what he sees mathematically. It doesn't prove cause and effect. So don't be foiled by Newton's law being a law of nature. And don't be foiled by the law of gravitation being anything different to gravity. It isn't. So unless they've got citation that shows that the law of gravitation is different to gravity, there's still mass attracting mass. So gravity is not a force. Don't let them try and preach to you that it is, because it isn't.
Notwithstanding that, even if it was real and even if they could prove it and qualify it, it's not ever going to overcome entropy. Gravity is not defying gases following gas law. So gas will still fill the container, that it's still going to fill the volume that's available to it, regardless of what they claim in terms of gravity. So in this argument, I say I have both gravity, Newtonian and Einsteinian. You still can't have gas pressure without a container. The gas
Nathan,
will fill
you're
the space.
begging the question for them. You normally criticise me for begging the question whilst I'm in the paradox, right? Now it's the other way around.
The reason I do that is because it's inconsequential. The concession for gravity makes no difference to entropy. It's never going to overcome it. So
I agree, but the problem is though, the minute you say, okay, then you can have gravity as a force, doesn't matter what, even though it's insignificant, right? What they'll do is they'll massively amplify, because some people actually argue that the microphone drop from Neil deGrasse Tyson was gravity, right? Even though it's a minuscule of the microphone's weight, they think that the whole weight of the microphone is being attracted to the mass of the Earth, and that pulling down on the whole microphone is gravity. That's how stupid it gets the minute you say gravity, okay, you can have it as a force. Nah, let's not give it them as a force at all. It's not a force.
But no, fair enough. Nave said
assumption.
that. Well, fine. Nave said that. Fine. I don't disagree with you. Fine.
Oh no, I'm not. Yeah,
I want to say
by the way,
something to
just for the
Anthony when I get
avoidance
a
of
chance.
doubt here, I'm not disagreeing with Nathan. I
Anthony?
actually agree with Nathan. We're just in the paradox sometimes, and sometimes we're not in the paradox.
You're right. We shouldn't beg the question
Anthony?
for them. I totally agree.
Anthony, what is gravity?
The math. It depends. Who's asking?
Just the current
Mr.
rhetoric.
Flat.
Current rhetoric, please.
So the current science for gravity is it's most accurately described by Albert Einstein in his 1915 publication called the Theory of General Relativity, which states that gravity is the effect of the curvature of space-time, a mathematical construct that has no application in experiments at all and can never be tested to see whether it's true or not other than by observation. And as we all know, observation is only the first part of scientific method. There are several other steps that follow it, and we can never validate it to be true.
I think B. Ryan wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to. Can you hear me?
It's the same Einstein that was just doing thought experiments.
Yes, it's just a thought experiment. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, the other I was watching Anthony on a hangout, and they were trying to. This was I think on Jose JG Gonzalez channel. He was talking to a bunch of people, and they were talking about acceleration. They were trying to act like gravity. 9.8 meters per second squared. They were trying to like take away the squared part of it, and they were talking about the force of acceleration and everything. And I was hoping, I was wishing I could talk to them, but I couldn't. But by my math, you're only accelerating for like 2.35 seconds, and then you're at terminal velocity. It maybe not even quite that. That's not much of an acceleration. But they were trying to take away the square of the 9.8 meters per second squared, and the guy who was on his team at the time was kind of agreeing with them, and they were wrong. But the reason they had to make gravity not a force is because we'd be creating energy by lifting something up. That's the force, and then they would have to negate that. You see what I'm saying? They would have to negate the force that we're putting into an object by lifting it up, which would break the law of or the first law of thermodynamics, I believe, or the one of them laws.
No, you're half right. Yes, they're forcing it into disequilibrium.
They're adding energy to it when there's a state.
Their claim that gravity is supposedly even causing a force is not based on any real thing. That's a problem. It's still Newtonian assumptions, and it's not correct. I, however, with relative density, have an explanation as to what causes the force. Relative density disequilibrium, or a great differential.
Right.
I agree. Well, I think we need to do more tests on. Anthony, you're spot on. Right when you said that the other day about about objects being closer to their median fall, I picked up and balled up a piece of paper, and then took a piece of styrofoam about the same size. And I was like, they're pretty close to the median of air. And I dropped them, and they weren't even close. And I think you're spot on. We need to do some videos on dropping objects in air that are closer to the, and get about the same amount of air resistance, so they don't cry air resistance. That you're spot on that, Anthony.
Well, we've bought some weights that are all the same volume, but they're all different weights because they've got different densities to them, but they're the same shit. Aerodynamically and physically,
That's awesome, man.
They will act the same in a different medium. And what we're going to be doing is doing drop tests in like different fluids. So, for example, water, because it's see-through, obviously one that we'll use. But then you can add a bit more density to water by using something like corn syrup, which is one of the layers in that density tower with the cherry tomato. We know that the weights will fall at different rates in water, but we also know that they will fall at different rates relative to the medium as well. So not just different rates in water, but they will, as them weights are getting closer to their equilibrium state, or their state of like neutral density or the same density as the medium, they will slow down. And we'll demonstrate that by making the mediums more dense each time we add more density to the medium, and we'll show that these things are slowing it, or they're falling at different rates, and it's relative to the medium. Now we all understand that intrinsically, but ballers don't understand that, because Toady demonstrated
Man, you are
that
spot on.
speed doesn't happen.
You are spot on, Anthony. And how in the world did you figure that out? That is genius, man. That is freaking genius, man. I tested it right after you said it, and it worked. Spot on, dude.
Well, it came really from basically observing that the egg went from not moving to moving, and we didn't put a force on it, but something made it do it, and it didn't move at 9.8 meters per second squared. It moved for a little bit and then stopped. Well, that, according to Newtonian principles, would be two forces: a force pushing it, or pushing it or pulling it one way, but then an equal and opposite force pushing it and pulling it the other way to make it stop again. So we noticed not only was there a force making the egg move, there had to be a secondary force making the egg stop. Now, the gravity and buoyancy argument doesn't explain that, but they will come up with an explanation that, with a load of maths, obviously, and then they'll say, it's because of the and whatever they're going to say back isn't going to demonstrate what we're seeing in real world, but we know that it is medium specific. So by changing the medium and by changing the density of the medium, we can make that thing accelerate and decelerate, caused by the difference between the density variation and the gradient. So that's all we're really doing, testing. But the medium does control the fall rate, and ballers don't realize it because they can't even think like we think now. That
you're gonna open some eyes with this one, man. Because I thought about it, and I thought about it because like a ping pong ball and a golf ball, they fall at different rates, but you got to go up, pretty damn high. But man, this right here is so obvious. You're gonna open some eyes with this one, man. Because I can't think of an argument they could have to contrast your point, man.
Objects of the same size, volume, will have different densities if they're made of different metals. Well, we've bought a drop test kit now, and we can test them falling through different mediums. So the other example would be tar. I know you can't see through tar, but imagine that tar was see-through and you could see what they were doing. You know that half the objects aren't even going to break the surface because of the surface tension, and the density of tar is really thick. So it's obviously, I'm assuming it's hot. But my point is that we can demonstrate that objects fall at different rates through different mediums, contrary to what most ballers believe. Because most ballers don't understand that this is the way it is, because ball rates are subject to the medium. They're not subject to a terminal velocity that's always 9.8 meters per second.
That's about all I had, man. But I was wondering if Nathan, if y'all heard about that and tried that out too. If y'all heard about the objects falling, that they fall at separate rates a lot faster when they're close to the same median. Did y'all hear about that, Nathan?
It falls slower. They're closer than the same medium
Right.
density.
Well, usually that's also because the friction the medium will provide will be greater when the density is greater. So, at the
Spot
same
on.
rate, you could claim that for example, helium balloon may actually start rising faster as its trajectory proceeds upwards.
Well, that's why somebody's offered on
Because the density is less, so it has less friction against it.
I think it was Brenda that suggested that perhaps we should do a drop test in air where we get two objects and drop them and see if they fall at different rates. And I was like, well, most masses have got a mass that's significantly different to the medium of air, a density that's significantly different. But if we did it in water, that gives us more freedom to choose objects that are closer to that density medium of the medium. And basically, that's why we brought these drop tests, so we can do different drop tests, but in different mediums that are going to show a variation between the fall rates. And that,
yeah, man, I'm telling you, right when you said that, I took a piece of styrofoam and I took a piece of cardboard and I just balled it up, just a quick little test just to see. And I took a piece of styrofoam and got the exact same size piece of thin cardboard and balled it up, and it dropped about twice, just from about 3 foot high. The cardboard dropped twice as fast, if not a little faster than that, than the styrofoam, because they're close to the median of air. And that's kind of a crude test, but still, that showed me you were spot on, man. Once again, brother, right on.
True, and the best thing is that even if we don't get the prediction right, we can all test this always. And that's the key point with science, isn't it? You can make an observation, you can make a prediction, you can test it, and then somebody else can then test your work to see whether your work's right or not. And obviously, when we do our work, then other people are then going to try and debunk us by they'll just debunk us with explanations, rhetoric, and thought experiments rather than actually repeating the test to prove that we did something wrong. And they'll claim debunks, but
yeah, good luck with that.
They'll all be able to repeat it and get the same results, and it'll prove that what we're saying is the cause.
Well, if you haven't tried it yet, man, you're gonna be shocked, man. It's I mean, it was massive. The change, the difference in rate was massive. It was obvious. I mean, I was just I couldn't believe it, man. I wanted to jump through and high five you, man.
Yeah, that's the key point in it. We're all working at this. We just know that gravity's not a force, and we're trying to work out how this thing works out. And once you realize it and it's obvious, someone tells you what's causing these things, and it's obvious. Not gravity just doesn't even enter your mind anymore.
Yep.
Well, gravity is necessary for them because they say the Earth.
What's gravity?
That's what we should all do. We should all do what chocolate does. The minute somebody says the word gravity, we should all say, "What's gravity?" Best make them define it, because they
What's
can't
gravity?
even
What the hell is that?
They can't even give a consistent definition for it, let alone prove it.
What does it do?
What chocolate does? Wait a second. What chocolate does? Wait, where did you get that from?
From you. So for the most part, an argument would be going on about gravity. This isn't a dig at you, by the way, Anthony. And over the top, or in the background, or in a gap, you'd hear QE saying, "Gravity? What's that?" But it would never get addressed. Now, I would understand the purpose, and I would want the argument to be addressed. But then chocolate picked up on it and also started doing it. And the other day I was like, hold on, why is no one addressing this? It's the same exact thing that was happening to quantum erasers. Someone's picked up on the importance, the significance of that question. But it doesn't change the fact that it goes so far over both the people on our side's heads and their heads that it literally completely ignored.
Well, I think it's because it sounds like a rhetorical question.
Not at all.
No, it's not at all. Right? Hey, does this sound good, or does this sound even better? What sounds better, la 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 la, or la 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 la?
Number one, slightly.
They're very
Number one.
Yeah, but we're now getting feedback. So shout out to Paul Hall, who says, while I'm getting loads of feedback, get off paper and get in the real world. Demonstrate. Happy Labour Day.
Drop tests in different density mediums.
I had one other thing I wanted to run by Anthony. Hey, what if we this is food for thought. You got me thinking about this. What if we take a density tower and pressurize it? I mean, like put some put a few psi, just leave a tiny bit of spot for air in there and pressurize it. I bet you that it might not mix up as easy the more pressure we put under it. That's another test I was thinking. What do you think about that?
Well, again,
you do realize that there's already pressure in it by putting products in it, right?
Yeah, but we got to put more pressure in it. I mean, that's just a thought. I guess it's worth
Just add
trying
more
anyway.
mass. If you want to put more pressure in it, just add more mass.
Add more what?
I'm a bit confused. What are we trying to prove here? I don't understand. Sorry.
Well, I was thinking about like the density tower, and I realize it's got to be under a little bit of pressure. But if we added pressure to the density tower, as we added pressure, I was thinking it's possible anyway, just in theory, that it might be harder to mix and combine. You know, like the little cylinder with the water and the corn syrup and the glycerin, and I was thinking if we pressurize that, it might make it harder to mix the fluids. What do you think?
That might well be the case, but my question is, for what end? To what ends? What's the purpose? What are you trying to prove by doing so?
Just kind of another enemy of gravity. I don't know. Just thinking on that. Kind of brainstorming.
Take it away, chocolate or QE.
Gravity, what's that?
Because I know, but no, because if it is harder to here's the point. If it is harder to mix the fluids by adding a bunch of pressure, then that would disprove like how they say dropping a density tower in free fall, which to me is a load of bollocks anyway. but dropping the tower in free fall, it mixes up. I think with some pressure, that I don't think it would mix up, but I'd have to try it. I'm gonna try it, but I wanted to see if anybody had tried it already.
Okay, the acceleration rate is no proof for gravity. They don't even know how gravity is supposedly causing that.
Right,
Okay?
the assertion, the assertion's already in place when
they don't even know what the cause of gravity is, let alone how it can cause something else. Are you kidding?
What's gravity?
Yeah, exactly. They're asserting. I just want to summarize your point. So
Nathan,
they're summarizing. They're summarizing and assuming that gravity is an effect when they do the vomit comet density tower in a container and drop it. Now, you didn't mention that particular bit. That's why we weren't on track with you. But now I understand what you're trying to say. But our point is summarized beautifully during those rumblings. What's gravity?
Yeah.
Let's decide what that actually is that you're asserting is the cause of this effect that you're demonstrating when in a vomit comet with a density tower gradient in a container dropped in freefall. That convolution is only there to mask the fact that they've assumed this thing is in existence. That's the real question. That's the point.
Agreed.
Sorry to piss on your bonfire, though.
The thing to point out as well is that don't be fooled when these ballers say, well, what about in a zero-G plane and the density tower collapses? Well, the zero-G plane is a misrepresentation of what's actually happening. They're calling it zero-G. We live in zero-G. There is no gravity. So we're in the zero-G. They're in an accelerating reference frame. That changes things completely, because what is the accelerating reference frame got to do with gravity?
That's exactly what I think. The density tower that's fallen is in disequilibrium. I don't see how they don't understand that.
Because they've just moved the scale. 1G.
They don't understand normal reference frames.
What they call 1G, if you're going to compare it to the mathematics of this acceleration, 9.8 meters per second squared, well then that would be 1G. But that's not what they give us. They say that at equilibrium, 1G. And then that scale means that when you're, in a hypothetical minus state below 0G, well, what have you got? Well, you've got this situation where you're falling. You're trying to reach equilibrium, and they attribute that as 0G. Well, it's preposterous.
Well, that's the whole point that I was willing to entertain Schimo's. Well, he just couldn't make much sense of it. But that was the whole reason I was willing to entertain that at first, because like they're calling equilibrium here at ground level, they're calling that pressure 14.7 when actually it's equilibrium. That's why I was willing to entertain it, but it didn't seem like, it seems interesting, but it's an interesting topic, but it's too easily debunked, man. But it's kind of the same principle where he's coming from.
Yeah, just moving the goalpost, move the scale up 1, and suddenly equilibrium, 0G, if you will, is 1G. That's all they've done. They just attribute a force that's not there when in equilibrium, and then mathematically factor it back out when calculating weight. It's a fairly straightforward magic trick, gravity, when you actually boil it down.
Agreed.
What's gravity?
The bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time, giving rise to a non-force that you can think of as a force but isn't actually a force, called gravity.
Do you have scientific evidence of that?
This is not a scientific explanation. This is a conceptual explanation, meaning it only exists as a concept, as opposed to in reality with any scientific validity. Therefore,
the prosecution rests.
You didn't listen to my end bit. You talked through it. I said at the end, therefore it's real.
No, that's non sequitur fallacy, Judge. Objection.
No, you're just ignoring my hand wave.
But we don't necessarily
now I'm getting rumpus,
have to
you see.
work
I've
at the
actually
really
proven my point and
level.
nobody got to hear it. See, point
Hey,
proven.
the jury needs to keep their mouth shut during this cross-examination.
No, they need to rumpus so that I can claim that I've actually proven my point during the rumblings.
I'm on mute.
What's
Bailiff.
real?
So mumble. So yeah, so there you go. That's my point proven. So yeah, I win.
Bailiff.
But we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level. So don't worry.
I love George Musa. That will never, ever, ever get old. George Musa's made my year. If there was a Flat Earth Awards for 2019, George G. Musa should definitely be on that list.
I second that.
Although that comment, gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force, is a really good comment to it to be able to cite back to them. The one that Chocolate just read is actually the better one if you think about what he says. Chocolate, do you want to read what he just said?
You're roboting, can you drop and rejoin? But we heard the 90% of it. He said that Chocolate's citation is better, and I wholeheartedly agree. While it's more amusing to hear, but you can think of it as a force, that's very comic, but the devastating quote is actually the one Chocolate recites more often. Do you want to repeat it, Chocolate?
We can, we do, we must consider Newtonian gravity as a force. Now, that doesn't mean it necessarily is one, but we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
See, that should be horrifying. While we're, going to have a moment of contemplation, half a moment because I interrupted, of that quote. But if you were the Fundy Globehead listening to it, you should be absolutely appalled. Don't have to work at the really is level. They're telling you what your world is. And your pseudoscience pretender clown is telling you that it doesn't matter about the reality of the world in that statement. How dare he?
He's basically saying we don't have to keep it real.
We don't have to work at the really is level. Really is what we're interested in. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Flat Earth Debate, we are interested exclusively in the really is level of things.
Exactly.
Pseudoscience astrophysicists, they don't really concern themselves with the really is level. And they're your priests.
Yeah, that's why that quote stuck out to me so much when I watched that interview. Everybody was really focused on you can think of it as a force, but when I heard that quote, I was like, really? I mean, really?
You know what the thing was? I remember when that was happening, obviously being in England, right? Craig must have been up late in the night for that to happen because Chocolate watched it before I even got a chance to watch it. So Chocolate must have watched it late at night.
Again.
I was asleep. Then woke up the next morning. Chocolate's already watched it. And he's on the phone to me saying, "Oh, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it." I'm like, "I've not seen it yet. I've not seen it." So you guys in America had all seen that before I'd seen it. And I didn't even know what was said because, like I said, I hadn't seen it. And then when I watched it, I was like, "Thank God my friends have already watched this and told me that it's nothing like what I was expecting it to be." Because I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't know if he was going to double down or whether he was going to contradict himself. I didn't know what was going
I got a question.
One or two things. You guys all listened before I did.
You're getting rumpus because you're roboting a little bit, Anthony.
You're roboting hard, bro.
I got a question for Riley. He's recommending mics to QE, but his doesn't work. What's going on?
Well, I'm not sure why. Let me just reboot.
Okay, while we sort out the technical issues, I will say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. However, unfortunately, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley. A massive thank you to all of today's live debating panel, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Mad Max.
Oh,
Mad Max, yeah.
Mad Max. All right. Now I know what's wrong with
The new one, not the older one, the newer one.
The new one.
Are you talking about Oh What a Day?
Yeah, I keep hearing it, but I said, where? That's got to be from a movie, but I've never heard it until
Mad
your
Max.
show.
I actually got it from Moto Madness, so he uses that same little snippet at the beginning of his videos for like people versus bikers. Some people may be aware of Moto Madness, but someone in the comments said to me, typically people will point out where it actually comes from. And one guy was like, "Oh yeah, Moto Madness fan." I was like, "Actually, yes, that is where I got the idea from. Correct, from Moto Madness." So he uses the same. He's just got like a thrash metal like rock intro for about, I don't know, 7 or 8 seconds. So it's, "Oh what a day, what a lovely day." Dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. It's like
that. It's great actually. I like it a lot.
I was having a back and forth with somebody who passed me an insult, Jimmy Carr, that day, and I said to him, if you in response in text, this is on comments, I said, "If you want my comeback for that, you'll have to scrape it off your mum's teeth." And somebody right after it said, "Oh, so you're a Jimmy Carr fan?" I was like, "Fucking hell, how did you know that?" Proper fans around.
I've been to see Jimmy Carr live. He was live at Warwick a couple of years ago.
Did you have any hecklers?
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of part of the show because the setting's a bit more intimate. Because in the same week, I went to see who's that other guy that looks Chinese, kind of family entertainer.
Not Jason. It's the walking Michael McIntyre.
Michael McIntyre. That's right. We went to see Michael McIntyre, and he was like a big venue in Birmingham, massive, loads of people. It was enormous. Like the I forgot what it's called, the NIA or something similar. Anyway, whereas Jimmy Carr was in a tiny little auditorium, and very intimate. You could see everyone. You could see him, and you could very easily heckle him, and people did. I think half the fun was going to see who's going to work in a decent heckle and how badly they're going to get obliterated by Jimmy Carr, because he's 100% more vulgar on a stage without cameras. Just so racist, so politically incorrect. I thought it was fantastic. It was one of the best comedy. I love comedy shows. I go to loads of them, and he was one of the best comedians I've seen. Just fantastic.
I think the whole comedy scene's like kind of done a U-turn now, because it's gone away from being because there was a time when they couldn't make too many certain jokes of like sexist nature or of a racist nature or whatever. But I think the whole topic of sexism, racism, and all the isms, feminism, and all that topic now it seems to have been turned completely on its head, and like overt racism now has become comedy. I don't know if that makes any sense, and I'm cautious how I describe it because I don't want to cause any offense. But sometimes in certain scenarios, there are people that can be overtly racist in a way that's humorous, but it doesn't cause offense. Does anybody disagree, or do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, Jimmy Carr gag that's just racy racism.
A matter of opinion, Riley.
It is opinion, but there are some
it's not surprising that there would be a lashback, because if you're gonna stifle everything and forbid autocratically, like you can't think like this, you can't talk like that. Yeah,
well, I think what they're doing is rebelling against.
Can I finish, please? Especially among teenagers, they will naturally be inclined to kind of be curious about what's not allowed. So it's not only natural; it would become popular at some point.
What was the agency?
It seems to be the rebelling against the people that say you can't say that, and they're saying it just because people tell them that they can't say it.
What's the agency called in 1984 that's responsible for this very thing?
INSOC?
INSOC's the overall government, isn't it?
Oh.
There's a particular
Ministry of
you've got the Department of Love, which is all about locking people up and torturing them, and I just can't remember the name for this particular aspect. Controlling what people say, the right think bit. I know, I can't remember. I'm gonna have to read 1984 again.
Can I revisit George Musser?
Yeah,
definitely. This should be good for a laugh.
So when Craig said, snapping the wand, that the force is non-local. In other words, that the earth reaches out as though by magic, that's the word I want to focus on, to hold on to the moon and grip it. So he's saying that the Newtonian mass attract mass is out the window, and we got this mathematical conception, space-time bending, and the force is non-local, so it's no longer local, but it's like the earth is reaching out by magic and somehow gripping the moon by a mathematical equation. So he uses the first word magic there, and he goes on, and then next thing you know, Musser comes in. Yeah, that was the magical component of Newton's law. I used the word magic, in a couple of senses. And it just goes on, magically. He ain't got nothing. Not even math. They gotta go to magic.
He also says there's nothing magically reaching out to the moon.
Well, he's saying, look, in fact, I wrote it down word for word, snapping of the wand, that the force is non-local. In other words, that the earth reaches out as though by magic to hold on to the moon and grip it.
Yeah, but he also says in that same speech, now there's nothing actually reaching out from the moon.
No, he's saying it right there. We're saying the same thing. He's saying
he uses the word, he actually says the words, there's nothing actually reaching out from the moon. He actually says them words at some point. Maybe not in that sentence that you're reciting, but in somewhere in that conversation, he says there's nothing actually
I'll read it. I have a word for word. It covers 5 pages. I wrote it down. I had to go back so I could go to it without having to go to the video. And he says, instantaneously, even more than instantaneously, is that it didn't propagate through the intervening distance between the objects, so that it's really no way that the force got from one place to the other in the sense of how it exerted its action. That was the magical component of Newton's laws recognized by him and others at his time. I use the word magic in a couple of senses. First of all, it's magic in the sense that, supernatural, but it's also magic in the sense it actually did come from a very particular scientific tradition that was, by modern standards, magical. I mean, it's magic. Where's the science?
To be honest, that's not the citation that I'm referring to. I'm going to find it now because I'm curious.
Okay, go find it. Because I think the first one I read said what you said, but maybe there's another way. And I'll just keep reading. I mean, to myself until I see if I can find it.
Can't believe the Flat Earth's got 16,000 subs.
Can't believe 99% of people believe the Earth is a ball.
Why don't we take it back for a second to Isaac Newton himself, right? Quote, "It is inconceivable that inanimate brute matter should, without the mediation of something else which is not material, operate upon and affect other matter without mutual contact, as it must be, if gravitation in the sense of Epicurus be essential and inherent in it. And this is one reason why I desired you would not ascribe innate gravity to me. That gravity should be innate, inherent, and essential to matter, so that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum, without the mediation of anything else, by and through which their action and force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has in philosophical matters a competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into it. Gravity must be caused by an agent, acting constantly according to certain laws. But whether this agent be material or immaterial, I have left open to the consideration of my readers." End quote. Isaac Newton.
I've got the bit in the quote from Thingy. I'll just play it. So just give me.
Okay, Newton did not take his own law that literally, that there is a force reaching from one object to another. However, you can act as if there were one, and it's perfect.
So he's talking about there's not literally a force. Hang on.
Ranty, you're causing a bit of feedback. Hey, Ranty, by the way.
I've turned it off. That was voice meter there for you, John.
Oh, I thought it was Ranty. Sorry, Ranty. My bad.
Hello. No, it's fine. You're right.
Hello.
Sorry, just as you've just arrived, and it's a perfect interruption. What was the show called where you and your panel, including myself, went through Bob the Fallacy Guy's quote-unquote housekeeping globe questions? What was the show called?
It was just called Flat Earth Chit Chat. It was yesterday's show, so it was the last show that I put out.
Does it have anything other than? Does it have a number, for instance?
No, but I probably will retitle it. I'll title it something. Yeah, I can title it Bob's Housekeeping Questions. I'll do that in a minute.
Perfect. If you can, just send me a link to that show, and then when this goes out on the for those of you listening on Nathan Oakley, if I'm around, which hopefully I am when this goes out, I'll spam the link to that show just so everyone's well aware that within not even like days or hours, but literally on the fly, we took apart and completely demolished all of their housekeeping questions, having not seen them before on one show. I just thought I'd plug your show and get people to go and subscribe to it.
Yeah, thanks very much. People should subscribe to you, though, and get you to 15k.
Yes, indeed.
I notice that I always get omitted from this. I feel as though I'm being bullied.
And support Sleepy Warrior too. Subscribe to him.
Yay! Thanks, Ranty. Fuck you, Nathan.
And who else?
And don't bother with Quantum Eraser or Arwin. They're both dicks.
Yeah, subscribe to Book Teeth.
Just kidding.
Hey, Arwin, what were you ringing for before?
Sorry, what I was what doing before?
Ringing for before. You rang me twice.
I wanted to get you on the show.
Ah, yeah, I was trying to set up voice meter with John.
Right, yeah, I understand that now. But yeah, I just tried.
In seriousness, you should get more kudos than you do, Anthony. You know, you spent half the morning helping me. I've now found out you spent the other half of the morning helping QE. So, you know, the amount of effort you put into helping others is pretty substantial.
Yes,
kudos.
It is.
I always support the channels that I like, and at the end of the day, that's why I did what I did with Dolly and Roxanne. Travis, although I've not seen Travis for ages, I set Travis up with his PC and getting that working and set up. I help everybody, Ranty included. Miserable cunt.
Yeah, he is.
Hey, we're a good bunch. We all scratch each. Well, maybe not Ranty, but generally we all scratch each other's backs.
Yeah, right.
Ranty doesn't help anybody.
All self with Ranty, isn't it? I don't know.
Yep.
No, I'm only joking.
Not even listening, is he?
Give me a big shout out. I lost 10 subscribers for doing so.
Maybe you're scratching your back as you got a flea.
I did. I shouted Nathan out. I said, everyone go over and subscribe to Nathan Oakley. I put the link in, and my subscribers went, 10 lost. Oh. And Nathan
hey, you know what we call
so
that, right?
Swings around about.
We call that entropy.
Entropy of subscribers. Yeah, shouldn't apply. Shouldn't have the wind eroding your bloody subscriber count, but that seems to be the case for me for the last 8 months. But that said, I'm probably about 30, 35 off hitting 15k. Hopefully I'll hit it and then probably dip right back down again.
Can you believe the Flat Earth's got more subs than Nathan?
Yeah, sure.
Well, they get all the promotion.
There's just a lot more zombies out there than
right.
normal thinking people. So yeah, that makes sense.
No.
Well, it's just a numbers game, right?
Yeah,
because
it's the algorithm.
just look at the numbers of most of the world, right? Are baltards, 99.999.00%, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, in terms of the YouTube algorithm, back in 2015, you know, around about when I started making videos, I was lucky enough to be right on the beginning end of that, and I've shown steady growth as a result. Now we're at the point where that little community in 2015 of flat earthers, tiny in numbers, has grown and been promoted and then been stopped from being promoted. Well, what was a fledgling community off the back of that community was anti-flat earthers. Now, they were absolutely tiny by comparison. Not normies, not people who believe they live on a globe, anti-flat earthers, what we call globe heads. Well, they got all the promotion that we did get given to them. So to see their growth as you type in this subject, they come up. So who do you think is going to get the subscriber counts? They are. Well, that's just based on the algorithm and who's getting promoted. That's not the reaction Anthony wanted. Yeah, bastard! Bloody Craig.
It's still a piss take the fact the Flat Earth has got what seems to be popularity far beyond what his actual skills are. He still pushes gravity to be a force. The guy's a fucking moron, but he's got 15,000 subs, and I'm like, Jesus, I'm doing something wrong. I need to become a baller.
No, you don't. Unless you want to dig through trash all day long, which is what practically he is doing with his audience.
Supervised, don't forget.
He's managed to jump on the end of the anti-flat Earth bandwagon just before it got a load of promotion, and good for him. You know, as much as this might piss some of the people on the panel off with the YouTube hat on, good for you, Craig, man. More power to you. If you can get into a little niche that you will get a bit of promotion out of YouTube and manage to build a channel, kudos, man. Good for you. More power to you.
That's where we get our material from.
Well, I was going to shout him out on the show, but I didn't know if it was appropriate. But Tim Osman, in, I don't know, 2 or 3 live streams ago, was talking about the symbiotic relationship between us and Globers. Now, he's speaking very negatively about the Globehead or anti-flat earthers and saying that they need us because they're just using flat earth to come up with anti-flat earth rhetoric to e-beg. That was Tim's spin on it. But the symbiotic relationship is absolutely true. It's something I've talked about in the past. Without anybody to brace against the rebuttal, the floodgates wouldn't be, there's nobody trying to hold them back. Well, they are essentially trying to hold back the floodgates. Yeah, the normies carry on doing what they do, but if there wasn't somebody bracing against us, we'd just be presumably, unchallenged in everything we said, and a lot of nonsense would get through the cracks. This is where Quantum Eraser comes into the equation. You personally, not the namesake, your namesake. That makes sense?
Yeah.
You, not your namesake. That's what I meant to say. You as an individual, not the experiment.
Exactly. QE. That's me.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, you come in and say, I don't give a crap who's making the assertion or what they believe in. Oh, right, you've recognised the Earth is flat. Don't talk nonsense! If you do, expect pain.
That's a bit harsh.
Share your pain.
That's true.
Yeah,
I've changed that name of the video.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, so another opportunity to plug Ranty Flat Earth channel and the roundtable and chit-chat shows that take place quite frequently over there. Good channel to subscribe to, excellent content. And there was a particular show, as I say, where we took apart, as a group, pretty much everybody that was here, including Spurs and a couple of others, took apart Brian. Is he in the show? Not the B Ryan, but the other one. Is he around? No. But yeah, we took apart their housekeeping questions on the fly. It was very amusing. And Bob the Fallacy Guy, who formulated them, lived up to his name perfectly. Nothing but a long string of logical fallacies from 2015. Awesome job.
And though he appeals to drongos.
I think the arguments from pre-2015 were a little bit better than what Bob formulated, to be perfectly honest with you.
What, in light of us?
He's not been around for that long, has he?
No, that's true.
So, question: did they ever get those 10 in a question format? And is that what you're referencing, or are you referencing when they first came out and we told them to make them a little bit more understandable?
One of the questions was about a swallow and its laden flight weight. I'm not joking.
I remember thinking, what's that?
I just heard mutterings of, what the fuck, what?
I thought there was a second part to it that had more relevance.
We're dealing with people who are...
Wait, I don't get it.
No, neither did we, but we're dealing with nutters.
An unladen swallow.
Sometimes when you're dealing with religious zealots, they do strange things that don't make any sense to us. Maybe some globe cultist will explain that joke to us. If it was a joke, maybe it was a genuine question.
Okay.
Hello?
That to have been a genuine question.
That was the Brian we were talking about. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everybody.
We were just giving you kudos for your
What's
part
up,
in
Brian?
taking apart Bob the Fallacy Guy's claim to be housekeeping questions for the globe.
Oh yeah, that my God, terrible. That swallow thing. I think that was like a kind of a, I don't know, making a joke out of us or something like that, because that Monty Python film is kind of the whole premise is a big joke, something like that. Who knows how his mind works anyway.
I mean, you leave the gags till the end when you've got, cast iron positions that are undebunked for several months. I mean, even us in that position, we're not dropping in comical housekeeping questions. We might do it during discussions after the housekeeping questions, as, maybe we should include this as a joke. But when you're actually formulating it and putting a video together to present to your opposition, what the hell, man? It is beyond pathetic.
Yeah, it was like the punchline, but 3/4 of the way through the joke, you're not gonna. It's like he got it wrong.
Maybe like I say, the fallacies were the bits we took apart, and I wonder if we'll ever hear those questions come up again. Maybe we'll get a third incarnation. Who knows? That would be the third incarnation, actually. They re-edited them and we readdressed them thanks to Ranty, who was keeping his eye on the ball. So that is actually the third incarnation of those questions.
We haven't had to renege on any of our questions. If anything, they are formulated better now than they were when we first got them.
Yeah, that's a good question. Why is it that they've had to have 3 incarnations and all of our questions are still there?
Because they're easily debunked with their assertions and questionings of us, pointing out where their fallacies lie in their questioning. It was a fairly easy task, I felt. I don't know, Bob the Science Guy, in quotes, isn't a particularly challenging opponent, in my humble opinion.
Those questions are for the knuckleheads, the target audience. They're just going to parrot them, right? Those aren't for us. We can destroy those in our sleep. So you're just going to hear those questions parroted. That's all.
Notice the absence of ballers today.
Yeah, I wanted to say
It's a
something
holiday
about that
weekend,
shadow.
so
Hold on.
No, they got a thrashing last week.
Hold
That's
on,
what I'm
10th man.
referencing. They got beat
Go on,
up.
Brian. The other Brian, B. Ryan.
Hey, that shadow going up, that shadow supposedly going upwards into the cloud. If you do the math, okay, say if the Earth is rotating around, what was that, Washington, around 600 miles per hour, then that would mean that shadow should last about 2.5 seconds, maybe 3.5 seconds. I mean, just doing quick math. But if you did the math and say 600 miles an hour, so if that is about 2 miles high, you go about, I don't know, that shadow shouldn't last no more than 10 seconds. So it really can't be that, if you think about it. What do you think?
Don't understand what you're talking about. Shadows lasting 10 seconds. You'll have to fill us in.
Yeah, so that seems like a load of bullshit. I mean, I'm trying to find a way to phrase that. If it is the Earth falling backwards at
he's referencing
600-700 miles an hour. Yeah, go ahead.
You're referencing P-Brain's video?
Yeah.
Ah, right, okay.
Bob?
Yes, I understand now. So he shows the perspective lines and compares them to a train track where you're near to the train track with the wide tracks close and the narrow tracks far away. That would be comparable to the shadow of a sun above the mountains casting a shadow on the clouds. Then he compares it to the view that you get from the top of the mountain and shows that you've got the reverse, i.e. the tracks getting narrower towards the top, like you're looking at the end of the tracks, the distant view. So he shows the various different perspectives and essentially points out that what he's claiming to be a globe proof is impossible to generate unless you're a flat plane with the sun continually above. It was epic. So big just a quick plug. Hold on. Just a quick plug. So big shout out to P-Brane. So that's P-Brain. Go and subscribe. Again, if I'm in the after show watching along with you in the audience, I'll post P-Brain's video so you can go and subscribe to him. But yeah, epic. Just systematically took apart Bob the Science Guy. Excellent work, P-Brain. Big shout out to you.
I've just had a
Wait, one thing
moment.
real quick, Randy. Real quick. That shadow,
Sure.
if the Earth is falling backwards at 700 miles an hour, then that shadow should be moving at 700 miles an hour. Am I right?
Oh, I see. You're now linking in Coriolis just to kick them in the nuts while they're down. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I've just had a bit of a
Ranty, are you about to
brainwave,
say something?
so you're gonna have to.
Yeah, you
just
can,
bear
Brian.
with me
Just
here,
after
guys.
Ranty. Go ahead, Ranty. Sorry.
Sorry. Right, I've just had a bit of a brainwave here. Right, so do you remember the full solar eclipse that we had? And we saw a shadow on the Earth that was about 30 miles wide. Do you remember?
It was 70 miles
And it was
wide,
only.
but still, yeah.
Was it 70 miles wide? Right, so it was 70 miles wide. And the Globers say that's consistent with how things work with a, with a shadow. Things get smaller. These little shadow, these dark things get smaller. But if you reverse it, and every night we're supposed to see, when you see forget it. Never mind.
No, you're on track because that for a start, their assertion's incorrect and it doesn't come with any cowbell. The shadow shouldn't get smaller; it should get bigger. But that for some reason they've got shadows doing things that magnifying glasses do with light, and they're doing it with the absence of light, with it becoming focused to a point. It's just preposterous. They'll never give you a demonstration of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's possible for that to even happen.
No,
at the
it
size
isn't.
of the moon to cast a shadow just 70 miles wide.
No, I would agree.
Not to mention that
That's
if
not
there's
possible.
that goes against the light rays coming in parallel. They contradict themselves at every turn.
Right. That was concise.
Is some guy... Sorry,
That's the end of that then. Yes.
No, there was more to it.
There is a guy online
I need to actually think about it, but there was something else I wanted to talk about. I'm going to go back and check it though.
Fair enough.
Before I actually say it.
Go on, Brian. The other Brian.
Oh yeah, just about before I say the thing about the shadow thing, there is a thing about that moon shadow. There's someone online, someone on the ball side, who says, who supposedly, I haven't seen it, but supposedly has proven that to be possible somehow. I don't know. Now I haven't seen it. Sometimes what they say is a proof, when you look at it then, and it's not. So that's often the case.
Well, that's what
But,
cowbell means. People will make these claims and then ask you to debunk their assertion. And it's like, well, hang on. You've got to actually provide some support of your claim. Let's see that demonstrated. Let's see the evidence. Let's prove that's the case. And then we'll go from there. Not, I say this happens, therefore you must debunk my assertion. No. Claim, support, rebuttal.
Yeah.
And you might want to read, at least if you're going to provide a citation, you might want to read it so as to not having it destroy your own argument. Kosho.
That was comic.
Shout out to Kosho.
So Kosho's claiming that Earth and atmosphere travel as one / tangential velocity of a projectile leaving the non-inertial reference frame will be retained. So that's his argument, i.e. there is no Coriolis effect. There is no deviation in a helicopter when hovering. 0 Earth speed underneath. No Coriolis effect. That's what he's arguing for. So he goes away to get a citation, and the citation makes it plain that the Earth's supposed to be rotating underneath aeroplanes and helicopters and balls and bullets. So his citation absolutely flew in the face of his assertion of a non-Coriolis Earth with tangential velocities being retained / Earth and atmosphere travelling as one reference frame, no Coriolis. This is the preposterous argument with Coriolis. We've got Coriolis effect. We've got the effect of things deviating because Earth's rotating underneath them when they leave the reference frame. That's Coriolis effect. That's what they're saying Earth does. Earth spins, things leave it, it deviates because it's spinning underneath. Then you go, hang on a second, Fundy. Things aren't spinning underneath. Helicopters can hover. And they go, yeah, that's because Earth and atmosphere are spinning as one reference frame and you wouldn't have a Coriolis effect because we don't have Coriolis effect. That's why we have Coriolis effect, you know. That's what they're essentially saying.
Basically, yep.
That's why I
The
love
other
the sun.
day, I happened to see that live where you were tearing George, what you call it, a new one. But he did make a claim, and he said,
Riley.
I hope Randy saved this, but he said that items that you drop out of a helicopter, they do deviate, and you could go and confirm that, Randy. But George met him, or not George met him, but George, He said that if you dropped, while you were tearing him a new one, Nathan, he said that if you drop something out of a helicopter, it will deviate. And I think that's easily proven wrong. So we got him game, set, match on that one, man.
Sure, but it's spotting that you don't need to debunk his assertion or demonstrate anything. You just take it as read. Okay, George says that you drop a weight out of a helicopter and from the ground, which is, in his example, rotating underneath the helicopter, you will observe that weight which goes straight down, seeming to deviate. Why? Because you're rotating underneath the helicopter that's hovering. Well, it's not rotating underneath by definition if the helicopter's hovering. You won't see any apparent deviation unless you're rotating underneath. And in his example, it's hovering. So it's not rotating underneath because it wouldn't be hovering. The continent would be coming to it. And if the continent's coming to it, i.e. the ground beneath the helicopter is rotating underneath it, then you on the ground, rotating with the Earth, will see that weight deviate. Not because it's actually curving, it's a not actual deviation. But because you're rotating underneath the helicopter, it seems that the weight curves, according to George, under the hovering helicopter. Yeah, he's fundamentally retarded, insane, batshit crazy, senile. Take your pick. You can't have something that's hovering present a Coriolis effect. It's hovering. The non-inertial spinning reference frame that's supposed to be underneath moving is defied by the nature of it hovering.
Nathan, can if you could go to Skype, I posted in Master B a section of Kosho citation, and there's a part I want to highlight. I don't know if somebody could pull it up. Arwen, please.
Any chance you can, Arwen? I'm doing it as well if you can't. Takes me a lot longer. Oh, there we go. Man, you're well on the ball. Yep, got it up. Yeah, only appears to be doing so because Earth is turning underneath it. What's the speed it's turning under the helicopter, Kosho? Oh, zero. Zero turning underneath. Well, according to this, it should be turning underneath. But you're arguing that it's at zero. Arguing against Coriolis, Kosho, and then you provide this as your citation. Yeah, well illustrated, Chocolate. Humiliating.
Right, and I had to highlight, underline the word freely, because that would mean it's not rotating with the Earth, it's moving freely above the Earth's surface as the Earth moves east under the object at a faster speed. So again, you've just destroyed yourself, Kosho, and anybody else who wants to argue with this Coriolis nonsense. You're done. And this is from your guy, Kosho. I'm blowing it up. I don't care. Because he thinks that it has something to do with latitudes and changing latitudes, which only has to do with the speed. Has nothing to do with the cause, which it says right here in your citation that it's the Earth's rotation. Rest in peace.
The only way Kosho could use this as evidence for his side, when it's so obvious it's evidence against his argument, is because he is begging the question with the sphere and the equator, and instead of looking at evidence to confirm the Earth is a sphere and has an equator, he's already starting from that point. So he can read this, but he can't see what we see.
I can debunk Coriolis right now.
Go on, Ranty, go.
100%. Right, George said that when the plane takes off, it retains, is it called its tangential speed? I think that's what he quoted it. It retains its tangential speed, right? So if the plane takes off from the equator, as it lifts off the ground, it's already traveling at 1,000 miles an hour of spin, plus whatever airspeed it is actually attained. So let's say 300 miles an hour. However, what happens if the plane takes off from the North Pole? The plane takes off from the North Pole, which is traveling at maybe 1 or 2 miles an hour. So its tangential speed is just 1 or 2 miles an hour. Then it's traveling at 300 miles an hour. How does that even make it to the equator? Because the Earth will be spinning faster, because its tangential speed will be faster. It no longer has that tangential speed because it only has tangential speed of 1 or 2 miles an hour having set off from the North Pole.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
I see what you're
if you
saying.
needed to get somewhere towards the equator, you would literally have to speed up to catch up with the rotation of the Earth.
But
It's
this is
just
what
a red
kosher.
herring fallacy. You don't have to worry about that. All you need to establish is that that something, whatever helicopter, plane, the Earth is rotating underneath. You don't have to go any further than that, right? Because once you establish that, it's over with the Charlotte, North Carolina flight to LA flight. It's just over. Just stop.
Yeah. Well, I'm just pulling it in from his argument. It's like if the plane sets off from the equator and it's got a tangential speed of 1,000 miles an hour, plus it then gets up to a 500 mile an hour cruising speed. So it's effectively traveling at 1,500 miles an hour. Well, what happens if it heads north? And then it gets to the North Pole. Is it suddenly traveling at 1,500 miles an hour because it's retained all its tangential speed?
Yeah, but that just
goes back in time.
Yeah. The point that Q is trying to get across to you, though, Ranty, is that they use these confusing arguments to obfuscate from the point that is necessitated for his argument to even be considered. His argument involving Earth rotation. Well, Coriolis effect is the deviation because it's rotating underneath. The point being, you've got to leave the reference frame to have that effect. Well, the reference frame is what we're arguing about. The Earth rotating. So if they claim the Earth is rotating, they must have Coriolis effect, and nothing exhibits it. So most of the time, the argument about Coriolis is them trying to prove that Earth and atmosphere travel as one reference frame, defying Coriolis. So you just have to pin them on what you need to have Coriolis in a spinning Earth. And that's Earth turning underneath everything. Planes, bullets, everything.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, even in their logical fallacy, even in that, we can take it apart by what I've just said. So
you're right. You're not wrong. You're right. You're correct. We're not saying you're wrong. But what we're trying to say is that by entering into their argument, it leaves, if there's an audience, let's take it off your shoulders. If there's an audience listening, it becomes confusing. And all you need to point out is that you should have Earth spinning underneath hovering helicopters.
The example I gave the other night to George Netanyahu, I gave him a flight from London to Lagos and the details of it. And what happened was I actually had too much of a distance to Lagos. I had put down, I think it was the statute miles instead of nautical miles or something like that. And Saucy London in the chat pointed it out. But then when it turned out that the actual miles that I should have had down was actually made it even more worse for George's argument, because it meant that the plane flying at an average speed, the planes flying from London to Lagos is 575 miles an hour. If that flew for that length of time, 6 hours and 50 minutes from London to Lagos, it would actually overfly Lagos by over 800 miles. So it actually had to fly slower. It actually flew slow to get from London to Lagos in 6 hours and 50 minutes. So there's no way. It just completely destroyed George's argument. And George is calling me dishonest. That's all you can come up with, dishonest. He won't address it.
You probably on that, man. Hey, and did anybody see Jose put out a show about reference frames? It's an old Disney version, black and white, and it totally pummeled. I mean, it totally pummeled George's position on Coriolis too, man.
Yeah,
Did anybody
that
else
video's
see that?
great. Yeah,
If you didn't, you got to see
I've
it.
seen that.
Hey, if somebody wants to share it, I downloaded it onto my YouTube channel. If somebody wants to share it, I will give permission to share it off my channel so we can talk about it.
It's not yours to begin with. It doesn't work like that. Anyway, with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!